Hello and welcome everyone to the Tech Returners webinar. Lovely to see people joining. So if you're here, please say hello in the chat and let us know where you're connecting from.
Lots of people joining.
Yeah, seeing quite a few people joining. Okay, Sheffield, Portsmouth. Okay, London, brilliant to see Derby, Oxford.
Midlands, Derby, yeah. Guildford.
Love to see it. Warrington, oh, that's close to us, isn't it? Cambridge, brilliant. Okay. So we're just gonna wait for another minute to make sure like most of the people that have signed up to come are here, and then we're gonna get started. Now, because it's our first webinar for the TR4 program, there may be a little bit more questions than usual. So if any of you needs to leave before like 2 p.m. or kind of can't stay over in case we run, we're going to send the recording to literally every single person that has signed up. So please don't worry if you need to leave. Okay, so I think we have about 60 people, James. So shall we get started?
Yeah.
Right. Brilliant. So I'm joined here by James, who's going to be doing the webinar with me. I'm Mili, and we also have one of our past returners, Patrick, who you'll hear a bit more from in a moment. So I'm just going to share the slides and we're going to get started.
Cool. Thanks, Mila. Check, is it sharing okay? You want to share them?
Give me a second because I'm just sharing and for some reason it wasn't. So can you see it now?
Not my side, no.
Hmm.
I can try if you want.
That is very okay. 1 second. I think I was sharing the wrong thing. Now?
Now we've got the notes.
Okay, now?
Perfect. Lovely.
Okay.
Yeah, great. Well, so yeah, thank you for everybody joining. It's great to see so many people joining and interested in the program and coming along to hear a little bit more about it. And over the course of the next hour, we'll go through kind of what the program is and give you some a bit of background why it exists and things like that. So as a bit of an agenda, what to expect, what we'll run through, both Millie and I, and then you'll hear from Patrick, like mentioned. I'll talk a little bit about who tech returners are. I'm sure there's people on the call. I think I see a few names I recognise that probably already know some of this story, but we'll have a little bit of, for those people, a bit of nostalgia about why tech return exists and what we've done over the course of our history, and which leads us in nicely into this new kind of format of program, which we're calling TR4, and why that exists. We'll share a little bit about that program and its details, information around the bursary that's attached to that program that we're really excited to share with people. Then you'll hear from Patrick, so a bit of a Q&A with Millie and Patrick, one of our past returners, and kind of asking questions of somebody that has worked through and done a previous program with us and then is now returned to their technical career. And then we'll move on the kind of formality parts, if you're interested, how to apply and what to expect. And then we've got time at the end for any questions that people might have, and we'll answer those for you as well. So Tech Returners was set up by myself and Becky as an organisation, as it mentions there, to remove the barriers for individuals wanting to return to your tech careers. So specifically for individuals that have had a previous technical career and are then looking to, as it mentions there, reignite or return into your technical career. And the career break can be for any number of reasons. You know, people can have career breaks for caring responsibilities, for health aspects, whatever that kind of reason. We all face different journeys, we experience different journeys. We might have taken a career break and now we want to reassume that identity. I think that's the important part. Reassume that identity of being back in my technical career. And that's where we kind of was always our ethos. So in 2017, when we founded, we ran a few pilot programs, just really to understand if there was a market there. And we found that people that went through the programs joined organizations like AO and Auto Trader and Think Money. Around 2018, 2019, we started to launch a program called Journey into Tech, which was kind of a mixture of returners, past technical careers, but not necessarily all past technical careers. And we partnered with various organizations like Lloyds Bank, Auto Trader, Infinity Works, as you can see there. And we still kick ourselves to this day. We got our first kind of commercial client, which was the BBC, and ran a really great program with the BBC. Over 2020 to 2022, we focused in on the returning aspect, so your return to tech, and we ran what we would call absolute programs where we would partner with specific businesses. Those businesses, organizations like Xero, the invoice and accounting firm, AO, BAE, The Telegraph, The Guardian, Booking.com, etc., and many, many more with those kind of organizations. And that was a dedicated cohort for those organizations, looking to hire a substantial amount of those returners that went through the program. In 2023, we were acquired by the North Coders Group. So as an organization, we were acquired, and that led us through a rebrand and acquisition process where Your Returns Tech, which was a product under Tech Returners, became Tech Returners as it is now, just the name Tech Returners. And we worked with hiring partners, and it also unlocked our ability to run DFE, Department for Education, funded programs. Mili will share a little bit more about that journey a little bit later on. And then launching over the last few weeks, we've kind of done a business webinar last week, and this is our Returner webinar, is our now new TR4, Tech Returner 4 program. And we'll share a little bit more details. That's what really the focus is of today, is to share a few more details with you about that program, and how it differentiates for people that have heard about Tech Returners or understood what we do in the past, how it differentiates for some of our previous programs. So that's where it brings us up to the current day.
Fantastic. So like James mentioned, we have run 2 different kinds of programs in the past. So we started with our absolute programs where we would partner with one organization, and typically that company would take in a bigger group of software engineers, so between 6 and 12 people. Since 2023, when we were acquired, as James said, we were also able to do a slightly different kind of program. And that was the Department for Education fully funded programs. So those programs allowed us to upskill up to 24 people at a time, which was fantastic. And we were able to provide a lot of support around that. However, because there wasn't necessarily a hiring partner at the end of the program, returners were responsible for their own job search and applications, and we weren't necessarily able to support with every single thing. So those were the 2 kinds of programs that we ran in the past. So there were a lot of things that I found worked really, really well in terms of our past programs. Whenever we work with a hiring partner, we were able to achieve their hiring numbers in terms of how many people, how many engineers, and at what levels they wanted to hire. And something that I think makes me even prouder is that after 6 months, 97% of people who got into roles were still in those roles, which I think is really, really important because you want to actually restart and reset your career. In terms of ourselves as tech returners, something that we put a lot of care and attention to was making sure that our recruitment process to get on program was very inclusive, and we pioneered some techniques such as open interviewing, where you will get questions, and we supported people who may have had quite a long break in between their last interview and applying for our programs. So that was something that I think went really well. And because of that, we were able to create quite diverse cohorts, not just in terms of gender, but also in terms of age, ethnicity, experience, and create such groups that are still talking to each other sometimes a year or two after. And in terms of length of career breaks, we've supported people with very short breaks from 6 months up to maybe 18, 19 years, and those people have still successfully returned. And so pretty much everyone that went through the program reported that their confidence has increased, and that's something, as someone who was responsible in running this part of the program, made me very, very proud. Now, it didn't, however, go without some of the challenges. And for those of you that look into kind of the industry as a whole, you must have heard about the big tech layoffs in 2022 and 2023, which kind of trickled down to the UK, but also to a different size of companies. And so it became increasingly hard for companies to have the budget sign-offs to hire larger groups of engineers. And some companies even went on hiring freezes for the whole of 2023. The DFE model was really good in terms of upskilling people, preparing them to re-enter the industry. However, because people were applying to a variety of different companies, myself as a careers coach, I found it quite challenging to prepare people for every single interview because we weren't that familiar with every company that people were applying. And so placement was largely on returners themselves. Something that we also found is that while we were running the programs, they were 8, 10, 12 weeks long. Sometimes we would have returners that were actually ready to return much earlier than that time. And so they didn't really benefit from that lengthy process. And there wasn't any financial support while being on our programs, which combined with the cost of living crisis and cost of things like childcare meant that some returners needed to take part-time roles, which then impacted their performance on the program. And so these were some of the challenges that we experienced. And this is why we decided to listen to the market and listen to our returners and adapt how we support diverse experience engineers like yourselves in re-entering the tech industry. And this is where TR4 as a program, as a solution came up. So we took all of the things that worked in our previous programs and then combined them with a new model that is relevant for 2024 for the hiring market as it is right now. So here is how TR4 works. And I feel like this is important because it is slightly different from how we previously worked as tech returners. So firstly, each month from April onwards, we're going to be partnering with 2 companies, and each company aiming to hire 4 skilled software engineers. So they want to hire those people that are ready to return. So myself and James, we're going to collaborate with their technical team and their hiring managers to understand what they need, what kind of person they need to join their company, and what sort of skill set would really benefit and add value to their teams. From there onwards, we're going to look into our pool of candidates and select and pick the people that we invite to apply and kind of help them to select the people to join the program and join the organization. So you as a returner, if you are successful in getting an offer to join the program, you'll receive 4 weeks of remote bespoke coaching, and that is going to be both technical mentoring and coaching from James and career and confidence support from myself, with the goal to get you ready to join your new team back in the organization, and you'll be able to kind of seamlessly onboard into the company and start adding value from day one. So who is this program really for? Now, this is for you if you're a returner, so you've had a career break, but this is also for you if you have been impacted by the recent tech layoffs. So while in the past, we usually would specify that you need to have at least 6 months of a career break, with the way that the market is, we felt that that is actually excluding a group of people that may really, really benefit from our programs. So if you are someone that has been impacted by redundancies over the last few months, or you know someone who might have been let go of their technical role, please let them know about the program because this is perfect for them. If you're someone who has actively been upskilling, so doing things like courses, your own projects, maybe doing a volunteering role, watching YouTube videos and kind of like playing around with tech, this is for you. And I really want to mention that the length of your break doesn't matter as much as what you've been doing throughout it. This program is perfect for you if you're someone who is self-aware and is motivated and determined to return to tech now. And it's also perfect for any of you that like to ask questions, like to ask for feedback, and then take that feedback, learn from it, and implement it in order to improve your skills. Who this program is maybe not the best fit for is if you've had a prolonged career break and haven't done really anything to refresh your skills yet. Because of the nature of the program, the length of it being only 4 weeks and the type of activities we're going to be doing, it can really be beneficial if you've done anything before the program starts to really bring your skills up to a standard that's going to be really, really good and kind of allow you to seamlessly onboard into the program. So if you're someone who maybe has had a longer career break, this is something to kind of consider from now onwards. How can you refresh your skills and start kind of bringing yourself up to that level that you were before? This program is not for you if you're on the fence whether now is a good time or not. Because again, with the way the program works, we want the people who are determined to return now. If you have no commercial experience in tech, unfortunately, this program is not the right fit for you. And if you're someone who doesn't necessarily value the mindset and confidence support that we provide, this again may not be the right fit for you. And finally, we really, as we mentioned, value giving feedback, and there is a lot of feedback that's going to be provided throughout the program. So if you're someone who doesn't see the value or the purpose of feedback, this may not be the right fit for you. And like we will see with Patrick and a lot of our returners, from my experience doing helping over 200 people, the most successful returners are the people that for the time period of being on the program, they go all in and commit to the program and they get the best results. So I'll pass over to James to share a little bit more about the program.
Cool. Thanks, Mili. Yeah, so I'll share a little bit around how the program's structured. So it allows you to understand kind of time commitments and how you balance your time as well. Also, just as a side note, as we're running through things, you might already have questions already. Feel free to drop those questions in the Q&A section. You should see a Q&A section on your Zoom app. So feel free to drop those if they jump into your head as we're going through. So how we'll mentor on the program. All the sessions will be remote, delivered over Zoom like this, but in a Zoom call format. And it will be a mixture of sessions, and there won't be too many kind of, for people that have maybe experienced the Tech Returners program, there won't be too many kind of classroom-based sessions where everybody's on, but we'll have a few remote sessions along with one-to-one calls. So really kind of giving that individual learning experience and individual mentorship experience. All the materials are shared on an online platform, Google Classroom, and we have a dedicated cohort channel for you to continually share ideas and help with peers on that same journey with you. We have individual support from our coaching team, specifically from Mili and I, that will be on the program with you to support you in those areas of development. and it's directly aligned to, as Mili mentioned, those sponsor organisations. We'll come on to that a little bit in a moment. Mili mentioned that feedback aspect. One of the things we kind of pride ourselves on is that actionable aspect of feedback, and really kind of making sure that it's things that both when you're doing things really well, explaining to you why that's a great way, the way you've implemented it, and why that's something you can leverage when you're in interviews, and how you can explain that and really leverage that. And then also that developmental feedback. Any of the sessions will fall between the times of 10 and 3 p.m. And that's not to say that you'll be on Zoom between 10 and 3 p.m. It's just there that that's the kind of time block that you want to keep in mind, that we might put a session in for those. And it's, as Mili mentioned, again, it's our core kind of mentality around tech returners is this bridging of your technical development, focusing in on that, and particularly the organization's technical stack, and then the career and mindset development as well. That combination of both kind of having your objective technical skills along with career and mindset development, and an ability to project yourself and share with passion what you're capable of, kind of makes that rounded kind of outcome. It will be busy. So in terms of the work, that it's mentioned there, 30 to 35 hours. Actually, that's the time that you'll put in. Again, like I mentioned, you won't be on Zoom sessions for that long. I don't know if anybody would like to listen to my voice for that long. But it'll be busy in terms of, we'll give you projects to do, and you really do get out what you put into the program. And like that final bullet point there, most of the work is asynchronous, so you can work on, whilst you're on the program, time schedules that suit you. So if you think, right, I'll go to the session and then I need a break because I've got, something to do, and then you get back to working on the project that we might have set. You'll hear a little bit about kind of the two I mentioned before. It's myself and Mili. So a little bit around myself. So I'm James. I'm one of the co-founders at Tech Returners. I've been in the tech industry for about 17 years. Worked in kind of a consultancy environment. I worked with an organization that was a startup, and then we grew to 120 people and grew through that role, eventually as the head of development. And I've worked at kind of commercial and government level in terms of projects. I'm also co-organizer of a meetup in Manchester, and I think we've got about 2,000 members now, called DevOps Manchester, and we regularly run meetups, so kind of cloud experience and architecture experience in that format. Let's dive into a little bit around what those 4 weeks will look like for you. So what I wanted to keep in mind whilst I go through these 4 weeks from a technical mentoring perspective is that it will be targeted for the specific technical stack that the organization is working with. So that's really important. So for the 4 engineers, will go through technical exercises that are specifically aligned to the technical stack that the organization is looking to hire you from. So week 1 is that individual development analysis. So kind of focusing in on yourself, strengthen areas of development. We'll review that and we'll talk about that and discuss that in terms of your technical progression. There's also a group tech task. So in the cohort of 4 for that organization, you'll have a group tech task to have a play at and really just get that problem solving things, breaking down problems, what might feel like a large problem, breaking that down as a group. Then we're into kind of, right, development analysis is complete. Let's move into week 2, where we look at your personal progression and your for demonstrating that personal progression or getting to hands-on with that personal progression. There's an individual project that you'll work through. Week 3 shifts a little bit to interview readiness. So again, let's get ready for the interviews with that organization. So tech task preparation, specific tech task preparation, again, aligned to the organization. technical interview preparation, getting preparation with myself around answering those kind of technical questions that we might experience within the interview format. And then week 4, we're looking forward, we're at career relaunch stage, where again, we're going to focus on, well, if we're career relaunching, we're going back into working into teams. So you'll work as a group on a technical project and present what you've created over the course of that week. So it's kind of that flow back into working in the teams and all the kind of processes that we have to do when we're working with other humans, agile processes, how we differentiate and how we pick who's going to do what, delegation of work, all those kind of things kind of flows you into that career launch aspect.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, James, for sharing all about the technical side of the program. And I hope you're excited, because there is going to be a lot of really, really interesting things happening on the program. So like we mentioned, the program is kind of made of 2 different parts that work together really to bring you back into a place where you feel very confident to re-enter the industry. And so my side of the program is really taking care of your confidence and kind of career support. So I myself come from a background in structural engineering. You can see probably by the hard hat behind me. But for the past 5 years, I have actually worked and been a career and mindset coach. I do a lot of work around helping people, whether it's early stage careers or returners, to feel the most confident version of themselves and to know how to represent and kind of share their story with confidence. And over the past 2 years, I think it's been over 200 returners that I've supported, and it's been an absolute pleasure to do that. And I definitely want to continue with that. So what can you expect from the non-technical side of the program? So just like with tech, in week 1, we'll really focus on identifying what are your strengths and maybe areas of development, areas where you feel like you may need a little boost of confidence and support. And we'll do that through one-to-one conversations, goal setting, and really supporting you to identify and create your own personal development plan. We'll also have a conversation and kind of a lightning talk introduction, kind of introducing you to the company and helping you to start integrating with that, understanding their values, how they work, their team sizes, and ask any questions as well that you may have around it. Week 2 is really focused on that personal progression. And so I really want to support you to share your returner story with confidence. I know for a lot of you, your story is going to be completely different from one another. And I really want to support each and every one of you to feel comfortable and confident talking about yourself and answering those "tell me a little bit more about yourself" questions at interviews. We're also going to create an opportunity for you to speak to potential team members you'll be working with and kind of ask them more specific questions in terms of what their day-to-day looks like. In week 3 is all about understanding your value as a returner. So how can you contribute to the team and kind of understanding the power of being a returner so you can really come back into an organization and feel like you have something that you can add to that team. And week 4 is going to focus on really preparing you for any final stage interviews that you may have with the organization. So I will do mock interviews, which are one of my favorite things to do, and kind of give you very personalized feedback on how you can improve. And really, if you have any other questions, queries, concerns about like kind of getting back into tech or rejoining a company, again, I'll be there to support you with that. Something that you have heard at the very beginning, or you might have seen us talking a little bit about online, but something that is new and extremely exciting is the new Returner Bursary that we are able to provide to the people on the program. So we completely understand, like, returning to tech is already a challenging endeavor in itself. And Adding to that, the variety of expenses that you may incur depending on where you are and kind of what your life situation is. It may be something like cost of childcare or anything else. And so we are very happy to provide a £2,000 bursary that is going to be given to each returner that is on our program to really support you with the financial pressures that you may be experiencing. And we're doing that because we really want to make sure that we create an accessible route for people to return back into tech. So I kind of like to think that when people join the program, there is kind of a commitment from both sides, right? And so from myself, James, but kind of the entire Tech Returners team, what we commit is giving you a free program to upskill and develop you. And that program is tailored to your specific individual needs, kind of matching that with the hiring partner's values and skill set as well. We're going to support you with technical and behavioral interview preparation and support you as you go through the interviews with the hiring partner. And as I just mentioned, the £2,000 bursary to support with living expenses. Now, what we kind of would like people on the program to commit to is to complete the full program. And as James mentioned, it is intense. It is something that requires you to spend about 35 hours a week to complete different technical challenges, exercises, whether that is individual or in a group. And to go through the interview stages with the hiring partner, whether that's technical interviews, whether that is behavioral interviews or a mixture of both. And something that we want, because you're basically, by joining the program, you're saying that you're happy to accept an offer from the hiring partner. So we want you to not be applying for any other roles during the program. So there is that kind of exclusivity in the relationship. And we ask of you to really engage with the hiring partner's team members, whether that is during those introduction to the company calls or whether that is in more one-to-one chats with members of their team. So again, I'm seeing some questions coming through. We'll answer those at the end, but if there is anything you want to ask, you can use the chat or you can use the Q&A box to ask those. So now I am really, really excited to introduce to you Patrick Espinosa, who is a senior consultant at Demon and also one of our past returners. Hello, Patrick.
Hi, Mili. It's nice to meet you here.
Nice to see you in here as well. So do you mind just giving a very brief introduction of yourself? And I'll have a couple of questions that I would love to ask you.
Sure, I will. I'm a software engineer who has been doing back-end development most of my life. And then at some point I have to learn the DevOps methodologies. So at some point I was doing both. I was doing C# development. And when I got into the program, Tech Returners program, I had to switch from C# to Java. It was a challenge, but I was very well supported there in the program. And now I'm at Demon, a senior consultant, doing tech leading for a client where I was assigned, and I'm in charge of both developers and DevOps. Yeah.
Amazing. Lovely to see that and to hear a little bit about your background. So I was actually really curious, how did you know it was the right time for you to return?
Yeah, I was made redundant because of the pandemic. So that was when my career break started, And after that, I just got another job in another company. It was just for 6 months, but I was a bit discouraged of just being in a company and just being a number, So then I started looking for something different, something that matched my values, And I think I was lucky because I found Tech Returners because I was looking because I really like to help people, And I said, okay, if they're willing to help people to go back into tech, and the sponsor is doing that, hiring that people, then that's the right mindset that I was looking for. So I knew that I was ready when I found about the Tech Returners program and when I found out about the sponsor of that program in that specific period. Yeah.
Brilliant to hear that. And you did mention that like you had to switch a little bit of languages when you started the program. So I would love to know, how did your confidence change throughout the program?
I mean, to be honest, I was a bit nervous because, I mean, I know that these are C languages, but the switching to Java, it was just new, and I had to I had to be brave and take the leap, and then I was very happy because I was supported all the time. I mean, by the Returner's technical people, they are amazing, and it worked at the end, I mean, I got a upskill in Java, and I was able to apply for the technical interview successfully.
Absolutely. And like you were definitely one of our star returners. So we loved having you on the program and kind of seeing your growth and progression in there. And finally, kind of, I was really curious, kind of, you've been a demon for about a year and a half, right? How have you found being back in your career? What have you been up to?
It has been a life changer, because when I got into Demon, I was supported all the way, since the interviews, I have to say that thanks to Mili, I could do the interviews more confidently, because you get trials during the program, so you get your confidence up, and then the hiring partner also help you on the way, and then they just try to match one people for the company, so that was great. So when I got into Demon, it was everything what I was expected, because it was a company with integrity, that they were approachable, they were passionate people, they were progressive, etc. So after 1 year and a half that I've been there, I've been able to achieve 12 certifications in AWS, Azure, HashiCorp. So it has been great. I have very, very skillful co-workers, and the client where they assign me, I'm very happy there because I'm working with multiple projects, with different technologies that I really like, Kubernetes, microservices, serverless, Lambda, etc. So I'm quite happy with this.
Oh, amazing. Like 12 is absolutely impressive. And yeah, like for any of you, like if you follow Patrick on LinkedIn, you'll be able to see a lot of his achievements and kind of the progression you've made in the company, how much you've actually been involved with it. Thank you so much, Patrick. Any final words to anyone who may be kind of on the fence about kind of applying for us or like working with tech returners? Any advice you may have for them?
Yeah, I just want to tell everybody that if you are in this meeting, it's because you are lucky, And I like to think that luck is when preparation meets a opportunity, So you need to be ready, you need to prepare, you need to be motivated, you need to be passionate, and hopefully you will be one of those 4 tech returners that will make it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Patrick, for taking the time. And if any of you have any questions for Patrick, please, again, like drop them in the chat and we can ask them in just a moment. But thank you so much for answering my questions. I really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, if all of you are now excited and interested, let me give you a little bit more details. Okay, so as we mentioned, we're planning to run programs in April, May, and June. Hiring partners will be announced. There is a C# program that we are running in May, and applications, which I'll explain in a second, are actually open right now. So if you've been to our website kind of over the last couple of days, you may have seen that the application form has changed a little bit, the information has changed a little bit, and so you're able to submit your application from basically today onwards. So how do you apply and what happens then? Please, like, this is slightly different from our past programs, so I'll try to explain it, but if you do have any questions, please do ask. So the application form itself is actually very, very simple. Should take you 5 to 10 minutes to submit. We're just asking to understand what's your previous technical experience, how many years you work with certain technologies, and really try to kind of get a profile of you, who you are in terms of your technical skill set. Because what we want to create is, if you think of like a recruitment agency or a recruiter, right? It's kind of create a database, a pool of returners. And then whenever we work with a hiring partner who may be looking, let's say, for 4 C# engineers with 3 years of experience or more, then we can go through our pool of candidates and really select the people who fit that description, and then invite you to complete the short My Motivations form. So you will be invited to apply for any program that matches your skill set. And for example, if you're a JavaScript engineer, you'll not be receiving invitations to apply to a C# program because the hiring partner is looking for an experienced C# engineer. And so in that case, we really try to create the perfect match between our hiring partners and yourself and your experience. So the My Motivations form will share with you a little bit more about the position and ask you a couple of questions of why you want to work there, what sort of development have you done during your career break. And that is why I think it's really, really important. You can start upskilling, even if you haven't necessarily done anything up until now. Start refreshing your skills. That will definitely increase your chances of getting and being successful on the program. For those of you that are successful kind of passing through the My Motivations round, you'll be invited to an introduction call, and I'll just ask you to confirm a couple of details and ask you a few more questions. From there onwards, we're going to select a few people to move forward to the final interview stage, which is going to be an interview with both myself and James, asking a couple of technical and a couple of behavioral questions. And again, we're planning to continue with that transparent interviewing, which I mentioned at the beginning. So you will be given the questions in advance. So you can definitely prepare and feel more confident in answering them. And finally, for those 4 that we select, you're going to be offered a place on the program and started. So you can apply via our website. So I believe someone from our team is going to share the link, but even if you kind of forget about it, or if you're watching the recording, if you go to Tech Returner's website, you can submit your application. Now, I know that some of you may be wondering what happens if you apply for a program, you're not successful for it. Please don't worry about it. You will still remain in our candidate pool. And so we'll continue to invite you for any relevant future programs. So you will not need to resubmit your applications or anything like that. You stay with us, and we'll continue to invite you to apply for anything that is relevant for you. So, next steps, what can you do? Number 1, if you have 5 to 10 minutes after the webinar, please submit your application form. That is going to help us to understand your skills, your strengths, and to have a kind of clearer picture of who you are. Some people have already started submitting applications, which is fantastic. So please do that whenever you can. Now, if you've heard this and you're like, maybe that program isn't right for me, but I know someone who would be a perfect fit, you can absolutely tell them about it. And if they are successfully kind of accepted on the program, you'll receive a £100 Amazon gift card. So please do share. Like, some of our kind of most successful returners have come from word of mouth, and we really appreciate the community that we have, and people that we don't. So the more you share about our programs, it helps us to impact and support more people. And now, for those of you that maybe think of a question, how it happens after we leave a meeting and like, oh, I should have asked that. Or if you're watching the recording right now, we have decided to create a brand new kind of Q&A session, which is going to happen this time next Wednesday on the 14th of February, the perfect Valentine's Day gift. So if you have any questions that we haven't answered today, please do come and join us, and I will be able to share more information then as well and answer anything. So I think that is everything we wanted to share. If you have any kind of specific questions, you can give us a call, you can send us an email, or go to our website. But for now, I think myself and James are going to take some of the questions. I've seen the chat is popping, the Q&A is popping, so there is plenty of questions. So James, any preference? Like, shall we start with the chat or the Q&A box?
Should we go for the Q&A box first, and then we'll go to the chat?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So first question, I think that's probably for you. Like, do you think this program is suitable for someone who wants to get back into tech after 10+ years of a break, but can only do part-time going forward?
Yeah, it's good. It's a good question. So, in terms of the break length, again, it comes back to what Mili was saying is the 10 years. We've had people return after a longer career break than 10 years. It's about kind of making sure you've kept or more recently get those skills going again. So if you're previously, let's say, an engineer in a certain language, looking at that language as it is now and refreshing on it. In terms of part-time, it comes down to the organizations. At the moment, it tends to be full-time roles that we're seeing. But we can always kind of bring those options up. We have had returners go into part-time roles in the past. So it's definitely something that we try and educate our organizations that we work with about. So I wouldn't necessarily be put off from applying, but also to be truly transparent, quite a lot of them want full-time engineers.
Yeah. So there is a field in the application form that says anything else you want us to know. So if this is something that you kind of necessarily need to share, so it's something that you must have, it's a condition, like you can't go back into full-time employment, please do share that with us, because we need to know that, and we can always kind of ask for more clarifications during, let's say, the motivation form, the intro call, and so on. Mm-hmm. So, James, another one for you. Would you say having a previous kind of having been on Tech Returners program, would this count as upskilling during the break?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've got to say that, haven't I? I've got to say yeah, absolutely. And I think the kind of key thing about that is if that previous Tech Returners program is aligned to the technical stack that the organization is looking for as well. That's useful as well.
Okay. Another one, which is like, would this course be suitable for someone who just graduated from a boot camp?
Probably not. We have different routes for that kind of that engineer for kind of earliest stage careers. Now that we're part of the wider North Coders group, so seeing that you've done School of Code, it's probably not necessarily. This is more focused at people that have had the commercial experience, like mentioned earlier on. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
I think that just to add a little bit more on that for context, it's when we work with organizations, we present a certain persona of the type of engineer they're going to get and the experience they will have had. And yeah, that's what we have to make sure it's set up for people to succeed in that, meeting that kind of persona.
So does this program require relocation? I'll answer that one. So basically, most companies, like, to be fully transparent, like we're seeing more and more companies saying they would like people to be hybrid. So that can mean something from once a month in the office to once or twice a week in the office, right? And so if the company is, let's say, based in Manchester and you're in London, that may not necessarily be the best arrangement. So if you really like a company, if you really want to work for them and you're open to relocation, again, we're never going to exclude someone based on their location, but we want to make sure that if you do get offer on the program, you're prepared to accept the offer from the company and make arrangements to relocate. So we'll never ask anyone to relocate, but if you are accepted on the program, we'll kind of discuss that and make sure that you are comfortable with that, because it is a requirement oftentimes for people like getting a position in a company. Would it be only for experienced developers? 4 weeks doesn't seem enough to get someone upskilled enough. Do you want to answer that, James?
Yeah. So it is. Yeah, it's for people that have had past commercial experience. That commercial experience could have been X amount of years ago. But yeah, it's very specifically for experienced developers. And really, the program is to refresh on skills that you already have. So, for example, you might have been a Java developer and you've not done Java since version 1.4, and when now Java's up to version 18 or whatever it is now. So it'll just be refreshing on that the core principles of Java and object orientation stay in the same place, right? Like that the core principles of the language, but the frameworks maybe we need to update the person on, or specifically certain things with the Java syntax and how they're done now. So yeah, it's for people that will have that basis.
Yeah, like if you've never done Java in your life, like myself, 4 weeks is definitely not enough time to get you to that level, which is why we're looking for experienced engineers for this program. An interesting question, is Tech Returners likely to run the 12-week course again during this year, or is the TR4 program replacing that style of course? James, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, so we've got, as we're part of the wider group, so for the TR4, have you seen our current runway is April, May, and June of the TR4 program, and then we'll review it at that point, check, make sure things are going well with it. We expect them to, but of course we want to do that review. And then after that point, we'll re-review it. In terms of the 12-week program, the only information I've got at the minute is there isn't a Tech Returners 12-week program scheduled right now, but we do have routes. It's definitely worth looking at the wider group, because there's for example, there's a Java program starting in the wider North Coders group, that's a 13-week program as well. So there are other routes. So for people that maybe think, I want a bit longer, there's other routes as well that we can signpost people to.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, like if you have any specific questions, you can send us an email. And if we don't think kind of you're the right fit for something, or if we feel like there is a better route, I will personally kind of signpost you to something that might be better for you. Another one for you. I was previously a DBA programmer, but don't know what to be trained up, as in the number of certified courses is diverse now. I was an all-rounder and want to ensure I have the correct certificate or proof of skills refreshed. Please, can you suggest what's acceptable so I can ensure and focus on correct ones? James, again, I cannot recommend anything technical. So
yeah, with that one, I would, and I appreciate that kind of the amount of certificates out there, and knowing which ones are going to help me into a role and things like that. I would encourage that person to apply, share with us the skills you've got, and then we can look at see if there's matching up there. If you're comfortable to do so, I would probably say apply, share with us what you've done. You've done DBA, been a DBA, so that I'm sure there's some kind of relational database SQL skills in there as well. And then what you were doing at, software engineering aspects, the program aspects that you did, and then we can see if there's a match at that point. So I would probably say, give it a go. It sounds like you've had commercial experience, and then we'll see if there's a fit from that point.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. We'll be running the TR4 every month. The plan is to run it in April, May, and June. As James mentioned, revisit after that. It is kind of an innovative approach, and so we want to make sure we are responding and kind of listening to both returners and the market. So hopefully we're going to be running that every month, but for now, the programs that we've planned are in those 3 months. Next one is, what is the eligibility criteria? That's a great question. So to submit an application at the moment, there is no eligibility criteria, meaning that you just need to have been a software engineer. That's like the only thing, and to have the right to work in the UK, right? Like those are the only 2 things that we're looking for. Now, when we have a certain hiring partner, so let's say they're looking for a C# developer with 3 years of experience, that becomes then the eligibility criteria. In terms of things like visa, security clearance, and so on, I can't say yet, because again, every company, there are companies that may require security clearance or to have been in the UK for X amount of years, and there are companies that will not. And so that is why we don't ask this on this specific application form, but we may ask those more tailored eligibility questions on the motivation form and try to understand if you're actually eligible for the program. But to submit your general application to work with us, you don't have anything besides having worked in tech before and being able to work right now. So I think that sort of answers like what's the skill set required for the company. Yes, like we'll share that once kind of you'll start seeing on LinkedIn, social media, like please do follow us, because we'll start sharing kind of who the hiring partners are, kind of what sort of people they're looking for. And then for those of you that have the relevant skill set, we'll share probably the job description as well, so you can understand much more specifically what they're looking for. What's the likely tech stack, James? That's one for you.
Yeah, it kind of relates to the previous one a little bit as well. So on that previous one around the skill set required. And so one of the things I've seen in the Zoom chat as well, that kind of two-phase application process. So you can send in your application now and let us know a bit about your background, and then we do the matching process. One of the things we will do is share the job description for that company. And we'll kind of keep working towards this and making sure that the salary is shared for you, so that you can make that informed decision of going, do I want to go for that company? The reason for us doing that is that really what we want you to do is, when you start that journey of now I'm going down towards that company, we want you to be in the mindset of, I want a job at that company and I'm going to get a job at that company. Because those 4 engineers, they want to hire you. So in your mind, it should be like, well, I've got enough information about the job description. I know what the salary is going to be. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to apply specifically for the program that's for that company. And it's on us to give as much information for you to be able to make that informed decision. But upon making that decision, that's really then your commitment to the company and yourself that you want to work there. So that's kind of, it'll give details around that. In terms of technical stack, so we know in a minute we've got 6 slots for companies, and 2 of them have been taken up. One of them is getting confirmed still a little bit. We know one of them, Mili's already mentioned, is C#. In all likelihood, the other languages we're likely to see will be Java or its forms. So for example, Kotlin is one around Java. Again, you might say, I've not done Kotlin, but I've done Java for X amount of years. That's kind of thing. Java, Python, C#, JavaScript or TypeScript, or PHP, kind of the realm that we'll see organizations approach us from. So they're the kind of ones. Again, the thing I would say, we see quite a few returners that have, and I've seen a question in, that have like C or C++. Again, if you've done C++, that's object-oriented, you might share with us in the box that says extra information. I've done C++ for X amount of years, and I'm going to start upskilling myself in Java. You know, those kind of things, the amount of information you might want to share with us.
Absolutely. Yeah, like that's really, really helpful to understand around how the technical stack works. And then similarly, like to answer the next one, kind of, is the role you are to take specified before starting? Yes, sometimes companies will come to us and say, we actually want to hire pretty much any level of engineers. So it may be like slightly more junior, mid-level, or senior. And in that case, we can share maybe 2 different job descriptions, or if it's a specific role that they're like, we need 4 of this type of engineer, yes. And we are always kind of trying to really strongly encourage the companies to share at least a salary banding. Like most roles have a salary banding, so you know that, for example, you're not applying for a 20K role or 120K role, so you know what the salary banding is. And actually, like, one of the questions in that motivation form would be asking you to confirm if you're happy with that salary banding, because obviously we don't want you to take on a job that you're not happy with. Do you need to relocate to Manchester? No, you don't need to relocate to Manchester. You can relocate to Manchester if you really see a position that you're like, I really want this. You have the right skill set, and the only thing is that maybe it is a hybrid, and you're like, well, actually, I can relocate to Manchester. That's a possibility. Then of course you can do that, but we'll never ask anyone to relocate anywhere, and we'll try to match you again with companies that offer that more like remote or hybrid. Okay. So I filled in the form the other day, but wasn't sure how much information to add, so I kept it very short. Would I expect to get on my motivations form at a later date? Yes, like, so once we have the hiring partner organization, and that may happen tomorrow, or that may happen in a month's time, that is when you will get a message inviting you to apply. And that's why, like, I really kind of wanted to emphasize, in the meantime, what you can do is continue to kind of like train and upskill yourself and practice, because that is going to be helpful. Now, you don't need to write anything, like there are no like paragraphs and stuff in that application form. We wanted to keep it intentionally quite brief to make sure it's very easy for you to apply. But if you do feel like there is something that you really needed to add, just like you can send me an email and I can add it manually to your account. Okay, I was previously accepted for one of your programs before, but unfortunately didn't pass the security requirements due to being out of the country for over 6 months. Will I need to go through the application process again? Yes, you will, because it is a different application process, a different kind of, like, you can think of it as a different folder of people. So yes, you will need to reapply. And again, it's very simple. It shouldn't take you a long time at all to apply if you've done it previously. I submitted an application a week ago. Has it changed, or should I do it again? Please do send me an email, because we changed our form about a week ago, so you may or may not be. Please send me an email and I can very quickly check for you if we have your name on the system or not. That is absolutely fine. Is there any visa criteria who can apply for the program? Nothing general at the moment. You just need to have the right to work in the UK, and there is like different levels of visa that allow you to do that. Now, again, for any specific program, we may need to impose, because the company has those requirements themselves. Okay, which tech stack is preferred? I think we've answered that already. Is it London-based? We hope to have hiring partners, and some of our hiring partners that have been interested in working with us have offices in different locations. So I think that there are going to be London opportunities as well, not just Manchester. Like, we are based in Manchester, but we work with people and companies that have kind of countrywide offices. I have experience in C# and JavaScript, but I already took a Java course some time ago. Will it be possible for me to apply it to Java as well?
Yeah.
James?
Yep, I remember that person. I won't shout the name out, but yeah, I remember that individual. So I would, on this initial application, I would share. It asks you information about the languages and framework languages that you might have done. So share as much as you can. In terms of then, would I then go, like, if I'm speaking as that person, would I then go for Java or C#? I think only you can make that call. So if you think actually C# is my strongest and that company seems to match my skills, then actually go for the C# one. I can tell you that there is a C# program coming, so we do know that for sure. And there is bits of JavaScript flavored in on that job description as well. So that might be something interesting. But yeah, if you've also got Java, make sure that's on your form. And then when we do that kind of matching process, it gives us as much information to effectively match you. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you're able to select, like, when you click on the languages, it will ask you how many years of experience you have. And there is an option of like 0 to 1 year. So you can select that in there. Can anybody with a graduate visa apply for this program? I believe so, but we have to check obviously what the right to work is with the graduate visa. So this is something that we can answer at a much kind of more specific stage when we have the job description, the company, and all of that. Do you need to be unemployed? So for the duration of the program, we basically expect of you to not have any other work. So like, if someone has, I don't know, like a voluntary position that you do for a couple of hours, so a week, that's absolutely fine. But we have seen in the past, if someone has, let's say, a 20-hour per week part-time position, or sometimes a full-time position, they're not able to come to sessions, commit to meetings, and so on, which is why the Bursary exists right now, to help you offset any sort of living costs and living expenses that you might incur during the duration of the program. So technically, it's not a specific requirement. If now you have a part-time job, I'm not saying quit your part-time job, but if you are on the program, we may ask you how you're planning to balance that, and we really need to make sure that you're able to fully commit to being on the program and also accepting a job offer from the company as well. Is there any location constraint? No, because most positions will offer some element of remote work. So no. Any visa requirement? Again, we've answered that. Is the bursary being offered when we are on the 4 weeks program? James, you want to answer that?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. Yeah, that's it. It's when the 4 individuals are on that program, that's when that bursary kicks into action. Yeah.
Yeah. Really interesting question. In the career break, I've moved into technical writing and worked in other part-time jobs interim and then courses in tech writing. Does this qualify as upskilled? I've not coded in 10+ years, but have experience in Java, VB, and .NET.
Yeah, great question. So there'll probably be similar people to yourself that's asked that question, kind of taking different career routes as we do things. So like you mentioned there, you're previously kind of hands-on engineer in Java, VB and .NET, and then moved into the technical writing world. So with that, does it qualify as upskilled? I would say so because of the Java previous experience. I think if you've not been hands-on coding and you think I'm going to go for this, I would get playing with the latest versions of the .NET framework or the latest versions of Java. So for example, in Java, you might have done struts or early versions of Spring back, kind of 10, well, no, it's probably still Spring 10 years ago. Might have done those kind of things, have a play with the latest versions of the Spring framework it's still used, or the latest .NET frameworks, C# frameworks, to kind of get that going again. But that individual there, doing technical writing, having to explain a technical concept in a written form and get yourself to a stage where you can understand it in order to educate others is a really high level skill. So for me, that would be an interesting application to read. So yes,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So for anyone that has submitted an application, we're going to send an email shortly, like probably in the next few days, kind of explaining a little bit more about the next stages, and we'll have some resources and recommendations on how you can actually upskill. But something that I can mention is, for example, CodeWars. We're going to share in that email how you can kind of sign up to the tech returners kind of part. And it's a great way to get yourself coding, because that is one of the things that if a company is hiring you, they would expect you to be quite hands-on with it. So there is time to start upskilling and refreshing that. And so please do not worry. Like it's like your time during the application process also counts as well as upskilling. Will this program be suitable for someone who has 5 years of commercial experience but ended over 20 years ago with auto upskilling in the meantime? I would say yes, as long as you can demonstrate what you've been doing and kind of if you've upskilled in things that are relevant as well to the program. But again, detail that in your application in the anything else we need to know, because it might be really, really useful to have. Okay, would a different technology background, say from C, be considered to switch to another technology, say JavaScript?
Yeah, so it's a good question because people will be considering that. And I think it goes back to, you've quite clearly been an engineer, doing C, that's having to manage the memory and things like that. It's a lot more difficult than writing JavaScript and things like that. So quite clearly been an engineer. The important part for me in that application, if that individual applied, would be a bit like what you've just said, Mili, is what have you been doing then on JavaScript? What have you created? What can you share so you can show me that you've got that commercial experience in that? The ideal fit is that you've done JavaScript commercially and you're going for a JavaScript role, right? Like we can't ignore that fact that the ideal fit is the commercial experience. But that said, if you've been doing kind of upskilling in a particular language, it's still an interesting application to read.
Yeah, so depending on the hiring partner, some organizations are much more language agnostic, so they will take people from a variety of backgrounds. We've recently partnered with an organization that is Ruby on Rails, and they said we don't expect anyone with Ruby experience because we actually upskill them internally, so we can take engineers from any prior language. However, not every organization is like that. And so again, depending on what their criteria are, if they're very strict, then the answer is no. If they're much more language agnostic, then the answer is yes. So it really depends on that. Does the April Tier 4 cohort going to focus on JavaScript or Java tech stack? We can't share anything at the moment, but please stay tuned to our social media because you will see much more information about that. Have you got any program for automation testing, James?
Yeah, I'll talk about that. So we did have a conversation the other day with an organization that were looking at potentially utilizing the program for testing and for testing-based individuals. So short answer is not yet, but we have had organizations speak to us about it. So if your background is kind of writing automation testing, or you kind of you've done manual QA kind of testing or things like that, I would potentially still apply, because it might be in the future that we see an organization looking to leverage the skill set of returners for testing roles as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And there is actually one of the skills you can select in there is QA automation testing. So you can share if you've had that experience. So it's really helpful for us to know. Last time I was rejected as I was not residing in the UK for more than 6 months. Now that time has passed, is there any requirement like this? Again, it really depends. Now, do you have the right to work in the UK? If not, then unfortunately, like that's not possible. But if you do have the right to work in the UK, then some companies or most companies wouldn't have that requirements. Some may have that requirements for any sort of like security clearance purposes. So again, very much dependent on our hiring partner, as we don't dictate what their organization and processes are. Can you comment on to what extent salaries are reduced in line with career breaks? Interestingly enough, we've not seen any sort of reduction in salaries. In fact, the hiring partners we've worked on have taken people on exactly the same salaries as they would go through their normal hiring processes, sometimes higher. Because what we find is that during your career break, most people have developed a lot of transferable skills, like Patrick mentioned a lot, like things that he had done, but also a lot of our returners have done like voluntary work. They become a parent and develop a different skill set around kind of communication, negotiation, and so on. And a lot of our hiring partners see that that actually doesn't take on from your experience, actually adds value to their team. And a lot of returners have skills that maybe someone who didn't have a career break doesn't actually have. And so we've never seen, let's say, salary reduced because that person is a returner. Sometimes we've seen salary increased because that person is actually a higher level than maybe their technical experience purely shows. So there is no really anything there. Any insights on the salary package? Again, that's going to be in the job description. Typical mid-level roles go from like 35K onwards, but again, that's very much going to be dependent on companies. We've seen a wide variety of salary ranges, haven't we, James?
Yeah, absolutely. But again, we'll make that kind of clear for people so you can make that choice. Is it right for you?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to proceed and I'm going to try and go for a particular program. Yeah.
Okay, another one. I have more than 20 years of experience, haven't worked not worked for more than 9 months, but unfortunately not in the UK. I have the right to work in the UK. Can I apply? Yes, you can. If you have the right to work in the UK, well, we may ask you, for example, the company may ask you if you do get the offer to relocate back to the UK. But at the same time, like it might be like if you're not in there, it's okay. Keep in mind that people doing the program are most likely going to be in the UK. So if you work in a group and you're located in Thailand, the time difference can be quite significant. So that's something just to keep in mind. But if you're right now living somewhere else for whatever purposes, that is okay as long as you have the right to work in the UK. CodeWars is a great website. Thank you, Richard. Yes, we agree. I've even used it and it's helped me. Okay. Yes. So like Steve, in that email that we're going to send, we'll share how you can add the Tech Returners clan. And so you'll be able to kind of add yourselves to that. And that's a way as well to demonstrate that you've been doing upskilling during your break.
5KU is a good level.
It definitely is, yeah. I had to learn it is reverse, so 5 is actually better than 6. Do most successful returners restart at the mid-level? James, you want to answer that?
Yeah. So the organizations that work with us are looking around that level. Yeah, they want kind of engineers. And yeah, in terms of successful, like Mili said, we do have organizations that go to spectrum of levels. But yeah, if we're truly transparent about it, that's what kind of level they want you to kind of go in at. The thing that's on us in that situation, though, is to educate the organizations that the value that you get with a returner that makes individuals, even when they've had a career break, at that level. The other thing I would say, let's look upwards as well, is we do have individuals. You've seen, I don't know if you've seen Patrick's job title, but it was senior consultant at Demon. So we do have individuals that's going at higher levels or going at mid-level and then really quickly progress, because it's quite evident about the level the person is when they're on the shop floor, as it were. So that's really our focus. We want people to go in at the level you truly deserve.
Yeah. So I've seen some really good kind of questions in the chat as well, so we'll answer those in a second. So I just wanted to kind of finish with the Q&A ones. So I want to upskill my career in Azure, and I also completed a certification in Azure recently, but I have previous experience only in Java. Can you still do the cloud returner programs? I think from there, like what I've often seen is that most companies would actually, let's say, look for a Java engineer, and kind of an added bonus or like an added kind of desired quality would be knowledge of the cloud or experience with AWS or Azure, right? So even though like the company may not necessarily be looking to hire cloud returners, cloud engineers, your experience in Azure can be an absolute value add for a lot of those applications. And again, in the application form, there is a place to put Azure in there.
Yeah, on that one as well, we have organizations that speak to us around cloud engineers specifically. So you might see, actually, I'm not going to go for the Java one, but we work with an organization that's looking for a cloud engineer in 4 weeks. And you know, if they're using, I never know whether to say Azure or Asia, but if they're using Azure and you've got your certification and you want to be a cloud engineer and they're looking for cloud engineers, there's a good alignment there with that one. So yeah, I think your skill set really comes down to your choice of, actually, you know, do I want to go and be a Java engineer, or shall I hold back on that Java program that just got announced and I'll wait to see if they offer any cloud roles? So yeah.
For the people that had like experience in QA, PL/SQL, yes, you can apply. Again, highlight that in your application form. And can I ask if there is a way of playing with latest version of .NET or Spring without having to pay for them? I think maybe send us that question in an email, and then James can share a little bit more. If there is any other resources or any other things, I'll forward that question to James rather than answering it in here, if that's okay. I saw some really interesting questions, James. So kind of what's the percentage time spent on tech versus career and mindset? You want to answer that?
We should write it down and see if we agree. Yeah. We think of it as 50-50, really. It's like equal parts. The reason for that, and Mili, share your perspective as well, because I think it's important, is there's the technical bit, right? That's habit. That's after a certain period, right? Like what we're trying to do is go from having done the coding to then becoming efficient, right? There's, can I do it, and then can I be efficient? That's the technical part. And also, can I talk at an architectural level? Can I talk at a commercial level of decisions I might make about how something's implemented? That's what makes us valuable as an engineer. The second part is then, okay, can I project myself in an interview with a level of confidence that also has a level of humility, because it's an interview, and also will I be that kind of person when I'm in a team? And that's where Mili's kind of side of the program comes into play. So Mili, I don't know if you want to add a little bit more on that.
Yeah, so I think it's like 50-50 is a starting point, but every person's different. So let's say someone who is very technically confident, but maybe feels a little bit like lacking confidence in area of like presenting themselves, communicating with a team, things like that, then maybe the focus is going to be 40-60 versus if someone is like needs a little bit more support on the technical side, but a really great communicator, they may focus like 70% on the tech. So the activities are scheduled, but that's why it says bespoke coaching and mentoring, because it's going to be tailored to your needs, right? Like we want Monday that you have to do 50-50 if you don't need that. But please be prepared that there's going to be sessions and aspects of both sides. So you can't just be doing the technical side and not engaging with the more mindset side, because it's going to be like very unhelpful for you when you rejoin the organization, because there is a focus on both technical and non-technical skills in the modern tech workplace. How much contact is there with the client during the 4 weeks? So I would say between 1 and 3 hours per week. So that can look like a lightning talk, which is more of a presentation with a Q&A. But some of those, for example, some of the group presentation, we will aim for that to be in front of the hiring partner so they can actually ask you questions around your design, things like that. So there may be much more interactive opportunities where they actually get to see a bit of your work and ask you questions, and you start becoming familiar. So I would say between 1 and 3 hours per week would be my expectation. When do you select the 4 people? Do you choose 4 people upfront before running a course, or do you run with a larger number of people and select 4? So in the past, with our previous Absolute programs, we would run a larger cohorts and then let the hiring partners select their 4. With this program, we are basically giving an offer to only 4 people. And you can think of it a little bit like an engagement versus like marriage and just dating someone. So if you're engaged to someone, you're very committed to like partnering together, right? So the company says we want those 4 people, and you say, I want to work for that company. So that's why we have to make that selection early on, and we say these are your 4 people. And obviously, like the company will may want to be a little bit more engaged in the recruitment process. Again, we have a lot of conversations with them to understand what kind of person they're looking for in terms of skills and values. Are you still running Absolute programs or exclusively TR4? I think we've answered that one, that for now it's TR4. If I'm not selecting the first program, will I be able to participate? Yes. Will you assist with placements? I mean, that's the whole point of this program, to help people return very directly into an organization. Does the organization provide sponsorship visas? Some organizations may and some may not. So again, I can't answer that without necessarily speaking to the hiring partners and understanding their requirement. How many people will be enrolled? So it's basically 4 people per hiring partner. We hope to have 6 hiring partners in this period, so 24 people in total. And I think that answers kind of the last question in the Q&A. Okay, the technical skills, I think we've answered a lot of that. Eligibility. The development analysis, different people will get different advice. I would say yes, at least from my perspective. Now, if you, for example, feel lack of confidence around presenting, then we can focus on that with yourself, versus for someone else, they may have 10 years of experience presenting. So then for them, it may be something completely different. So yes, it would be based on yourself. And similarly, I think from a technical perspective, if let's say it's a full stack organization, you may feel very confident on the back end, but feel a little bit more shaky on the front end, and vice versa. So James can again understand who you are, your experience, and provide much more tailored support based on that.
Yeah.
The application link, I think that has been shared. Is this available for people who have done those skills for live bootcamp? Yes, like we don't have any restriction, but we, again, it matters that you've had commercial experience in tech. So if you're a career switcher and this is going to be your first technical role, likely this is not the program for you. Okay. Yeah, so am I right in understanding that you have to exactly match the technical stack of the proposed employer up front as opposed to learning it on the program? Yes, like in the past, our programs were longer, and so it allowed people to change languages and upskill in a different area. Now, as I said, if the company is language agnostic, then it doesn't really matter. But if the company is very specific about wanting C# and not accepting applicants who are not experienced in C#, then we have to kind of comply with that requirement. Okay. Okay, so there were like the questions. There were lots of there. Okay, thank you so much, Tim, for like sharing all the questions. I think we've answered pretty much everything. I'm just gonna scroll a bit to the end. And if you see anything, James, that you can answer, will this be a remote role if we are chosen by the employer? Could be, but likely, I mean, most companies have implemented some return to office policy, but how often that is, we can't specify yet. Okay.
Yeah, we're seeing kind of a hybrid aspect. So like Mili said a little earlier on, was it might be that they want you in office for once per month, once per week, or yeah, but that'll be clear. So again, you'll have that choice. So if you're looking for an entirely remote role, and you see on the company that they want people in office for X amount, you'll be able to make that choice for yourself.
Yeah. Someone asked actually a really good question. Is it only for the 4 weeks during the course? You're not allowed to attend any other interviews? Yes, like basically you can attend interviews before the program if you're applying, but I will ask you usually in that introduction call, like whether you're applied for other positions, because again, we don't want to offer someone a place and then a week later they get a job offer and decide to leave the program. It's basically, there's going to be some like terms and conditions, which of course we'll share with you in advance. But yeah, as I said, it's quite like as an engagement, right? You wouldn't just like break off your engagement for no like good reason in there.
Yeah. What we want to be clear about there is that the intention really is that when you send in that motivations form for a particular company, that you're intending to work for them. That's really, and understand, if you don't end up getting on the program, by all means, keep applying. And if there's not a currently active program that you're going for, you can be in the pool and you might get a role and things like that. Don't worry about that. But it's when you get that opportunity, you're saying to yourself, no, that's the company I'm going to work for. Yeah.
Someone said that they're in Cardiff. Yes, it's as long as you're based in the UK, basically, it's absolutely fine to apply. Okay, there were a couple more questions and I think we're gonna finish with that. So will you know about the hiring partner much earlier? We aim to give as much notice as we have, so at least probably 6-7 weeks, because that's going to allow us to conduct a proper application process, interviews and so on. So we'll aim to share that and invite people as early as possible. But even if, let's say, you see a program and it's only 3 weeks left, if you apply and you have the right skill set, we will send you the invitation to apply and to fill the motivation form. I have commercial experience in legacy, but I have upskilled in different technology, Python. Can I still apply for this program, James?
Yeah, share it as extra information. Yeah. Again, we can understand what that legacy is. Because sometimes people use that term and it's still being used. But yeah, I would encourage that.
Yeah, and an interesting one as well that I think is important. Does it mean when we join the program, you're already hired by the hiring partner? So again, think of it like marriage versus engagement. Like when you marry someone, you have a written agreement, you have a marriage certificate. So the same in a job role, you'll have a contract, right? So the program it's an engagement. So you won't have the contract yet, but both you and the company say that you're very committed to, they say, we're committed to hiring you, and you say, I'm committed to joining your organization. So you're not going to be on their payroll, you're not going to have a contract with them, but basically it's a very serious kind of declaration of interest from their side and from your side. That's the best that I can explain it. Anything you want to add, James?
No, I can't top that analogy. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So I think that's basically it. Thanks everyone for staying. I know we've run over by half an hour, which is crazy, but there were so many good questions that I think that we just wanted to answer and make sure that people are aware. So next steps, like we mentioned, there's going to be a Q&A. So if there is something that you haven't we haven't answered, or you think of a different question, please do come and join the Q&A. We'll send you the sign up link with the replay of the webinar so that you'll be able to sign up, and it's going to be me again, like answering questions in here live. So please do come if you think of anything. And yeah, we'll send the recording shortly once it's processed. So again, you'll be able to rewatch that. But thank you so much for your time, for being here. And again, submit your application. I'm really looking forward to seeing that.
Thanks all.
Thanks everyone. Bye. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.